Okay, we're going to get started. Good morning, everybody, especially you on virtual. Thank you for getting involved. And thank you everybody for being here today on this nice day. We still don't have any snow, so that's a good thing. Maybe I just cursed us, I'm not sure, but we'll see. So we'll start our agenda of the day on October 26, 2022, start time 9:01. Call to order the meeting. Consideration of the agenda. Any additions or deletions to today's agenda? Not hearing any. Can I have approval of the agenda presented today? Cindy? All four? Unanimous? Stacy, did you have your hand up? Yeah. Okay, thanks. Okay, appointments. I don't see any today. Reading and approving of minutes, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of September 28, 2022 as presented. Stacy? All those in favor? Unanimous? Presentation, facility services presentation. I see, so we have someone in the corner just anxious to get up here and talk.
Thank you, Chair Dwyer. I'm Danny Henderson. I am the Director of Facilities for Sturgeon Public Schools. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Facilities Department today. So, on the screen for reference is our team that works out of the central office site. So I'm the director and supported in the office by Mike Wepler, Regan Shinbein, and Kathy Huckelak, as well as our team of journeymen and competent ground maintenance workers. So starting in the top corner, we have Andrew Webb, who is journeyman carpenter, Brian Hebert, who takes care of all of our grounds and generic maintenance needs. He is also our certified playground inspector as of about 2 weeks ago. Chris Callender is another journeyman carpenter that we have on staff, followed by Evan Soper, plumbing and HVAC technician. Kevin Zielinski, journeyman and master electrician. Brett Hansen, who is also a certified plumber and gas fitter. Kevin Smith, plumber and gas fitter and guru for all things HVAC related, our commercial heating units and such. He is fantastic. He's been an excellent addition to our team. And I'm going to jump to the bottom corner first. Carly Stevenson is our electrical apprentice. So I know that we'll come to sooner. She is the first apprentice that Sturgeon Public School Division has on record for our history with AIT. So that's a pretty big milestone that we were only able to accomplish by assembling our team of qualified journeymen. We go back up a little bit. We have Madeline Pout, who is the caretaker of this facility. So she is the key to happiness for everybody here. Okay. The mission of the Facilities Department is to keep our schools safe, clean, and healthy for all students and staff operating within the buildings. The department provides mechanical, carpentry, electrical, all the services. We provide the security, the fire and life safety support that goes with the buildings, and just the day-to-day operations. The people on the slide previous they're instrumental and everybody sees them on a regular basis, but the ones that we don't see are the ones who keep our buildings clean. The day-to-day interactors with everybody in our buildings. They're often the first point of contact for principals, daily interaction with students, and those are the 9 custodians that we directly employ, as well as the 19 caretaking staff who work in the evenings. And we have 4 contract teams as well that that fill in the last 4 schools that don't have direct employees. So we're very thankful for the hard work and dedication that they provide. The assurance domain component. Public assurance occurs when all students learn in environments that support their needs. Facilities works with our schools to foster welcome learning environments and just address unhappiness, try and make things better. Good things John's running that, so I don't skip pages. Okay. Operations and maintenance. So we're responsible for cleaning, equipment maintenance and repairs, utilities, regulatory compliance, heating, cooling, automation, building envelopes, site services, vandalism, security, waste removals, and all things in between. Our capital renewal requirements involve the life cycle renewal of existing facilities, new construction, renovations, program upgrades, and accessibility. Accommodations and planning, we are responsible for property, both acquisition and disposal, managing lease properties, and the growing and shifting requirements that the division has. Student accommodations, enrollment projects, school boundaries, portable allocations, development planning, mapping. We cover a wide range and try our best. Within those, we've realized some great successes and accomplishments. So we now employ a staff of fully competent journeymen across all trades. So we are able to competently assess and repair pretty much anything that happens in the division. It also allows us to ensure that when we do have to bring contractors in, we have competent people who know what's going on and we can look out for the best interest of the division. As mentioned before, Carly is now the first apprentice that we have indentured through AIT. That is a very big step, one that we are all very proud of because it shows a lot of growth and our commitment to continuing that forward progress. When I started here in 2019, something that was identified to us as an area of concern was a lack of preventative maintenance. Things happen very reactively. And while we still have those reactive moments, we have taken a number of steps to try and get ahead of problems before they are. We have had a big focus on preventative maintenance, and we have successfully created an equipment database within our computerized work order management system that allows our guys on site in the field to access all wear components virtually before they have to go to a site. So if we're having problems with specific air handling units or boilers, et cetera, they can bring up on their asset planner what belts or pulleys or bearings or pretty much anything that can wear on those components so that we can address a site efficiently rather than having to go find out what the problem is, back figure things, and have to run to the city to get parts. It allows us to actually go and make a repair now rather than spend all the time troubleshooting and back and forth. So it's developing a lot of efficiency for us. We have also implemented biannual preventative maintenance. So twice a year, the start of October, and usually depending on weather conditions, late April, early May, we put the focus on our team to go out and change out those belts and all filters. So every filter in the division has been changed. We had the last case show up yesterday, actually. So heading into winter, we have excellent airflow. For the first time that we can find record, we have dismantled and cleaned all heating coils on air handlers. That has been completed. So we're really pushing to take the wear off of our equipment and have it run the most efficiently that we can. It's something that's becoming very, very important as supply lines become congested and it's becoming more difficult to get parts in a timely manner, especially for the aged equipment that we operate. Fall of 2021, all divisions boiler-wide were calibrated by manufacturer commissioning agent to optimize performance and ensure safe operating parameters. This was a very important step in being able to renew our registration with the Alberta Boiler Safety Association so that all of our facilities are run in compliance based on heating unit size with that organization. That was an area that we had become deficient, and we are now all caught up, certified, registered. And a note to go along with that, we have also, after Carly, registered Kevin Smith as an apprentice as well to try and get an advanced gas fitting ticket that will also minimize our requirement on contractors. So we have that in the works. Roofing deficiencies were a big thing that we needed to address as well. On an anecdotal note, there was several facilities where we found trees growing in our roof systems when I started here. So in 2019, we had approximately 40% of our roofs that were listed in a good or not failing condition. We started off with a focus on libraries and gyms so that we could prevent loss to major assets. And as of current, we now have a rating of 84% of our roofs are in good or better shape. So we have had extreme growth. It has not been without headaches, some that we're currently dealing with, but overall it's been a very successful push, and that will allow us to free up more money for some of the other projects that are starting to be visible now to the division. We had modernization projects undertaken in both Nemeo and Gibbons this past year, to renovate completely the food labs for the students. They're a night and day difference. We have bright, usable learning space now with high-end appliances, and it's little things like that that are going to make a huge difference, I think, to the students and staff. A big morale shift around some of those items. So it's very nice to be able to get into some of those as we catch up to some of the bigger projects. In the summer of 2021, we started a program to renovate and update washrooms. We started with some boys' washrooms that had inadequate and outdated fixtures that were leaking, causing massive problems, and just leading to hygiene issues. So that was what brought the project on. And currently, I believe we have now done 8 complete washroom units across 4 schools, and we will continue to add more of those on an annual basis. So where am I now? Emergency lighting was something that was identified in the capital plan when we redid it in 2019 as well. In some cases, it was inadequate. A lot of cases, it didn't work properly. So we are addressing that as well. We're doing full LED upgrades on those. They're being done in-house, so they're taking a little bit longer than what we would typically like, but it gives us an excellent cost control method. We have 50% of our schools are currently completed and adequate. So we're on the way. And we are focusing on continuing to improve communication with schools and complete service in a timely manner without compromising the workmanship and adherence to safety codes. The challenges faced by facility service include older buildings. I think it's a surprise to anybody here that a lot of our buildings date back to the 50s, so we have crossed the 70-year mark on a lot of the facilities that we're operating. Ministry of Education funding for facility enhancements and provincial benchmarks are insufficient to cope with the current facility needs. We have a lot of outstanding work that amounts to large dollar values, and we have the wonderful challenge that we accept on a daily basis to keep things working the best that we can. Shipping and delivery from suppliers has affected shifted planning requirements and project delivery. In progress work order volume has tripled over the past approximately 18 months. So that puts a strain on available resources and requirements for management. Over the last year, our staff of tradespeople has almost doubled. So as a little bit more of a success story, we have managed to take our work order count from 450 as of September 1st, and we are down now to 252, and we're still continuing on special projects. So things are moving in the right direction, I believe. We're also trying now to balance service delivery across the stakeholder groups through priority identification. And an issue that has caused us is that while we identify priorities and we're very good at responding to emergent needs that have a safety impact, one of the things that gets lost when we do that is the minor details that come in that provide that extra happiness and satisfaction. So we're currently working with Liliana quite frequently, trying to develop a new method that will allow us to address those also in a timely manner and stop with the dedicated focus to the immediate needs. We are trying to integrate contract services with in-house delivery methods. So that requires us to improve on our communication on a daily basis, as well as how we go about monitoring contract work and how it is fulfilled and the success with which it's delivered. Balancing capital needs with technical drivers required by the ministries is also a large challenge. As provincial dollars that fund us get tighter, so do the requirements to access those dollars. So we're getting to a point where it's a lot more required than filling out a form to make a request. Now there's a lot of background work and site preparation and things that need to be established well before we're able to make those requests. So our priorities over the next 3-year period are facility solutions for Gibbons School, facility solution for Ecole Morinville Public School, facility solution for Landing Trail School, and revitalization of our 3- and 10-year capital plans. And thank you.
Questions?
Sorry, Janine. Sorry, guys. Tasha Oatway, Clay Ward 6. Was wondering if you could maybe give an example of balancing service delivery across stakeholder groups and identifying priorities, because it makes sense, but I don't actually know. Are my stakeholders the same as yours?
So the stakeholders that we respond to on a daily basis are very much the schools, and what comes out of the schools is very much where our priorities establish. Some of the difficulties we get is that some of the other stakeholders that we need to take influence from are the Ed Services team directly. So there's a number of different operating groups under Ed Services that have addressed the special needs requirements of the division. So frequently, one that actually came up yesterday was some swing equipment for one of the goal spaces at Namao. The difficulty that we're having is that this equipment is brought in from external sources, and we run into a problem with certifications and liabilities and such for being able to assemble them. And it kind of falls into a gray area where who should be dealing with it. So we're trying right now, I'm working with Shannon Chabot and Shelley Greenwood to establish a plan forward to assess those kind of things before they just get lost in a work order system with very little credence given to them, because from our side, we see the building things first, not necessarily the extra peripherals. So we're trying to improve on how we address those type of situations.
Trish Marielli at Ward 4. First, Dog Benny, thank you very much. I want to say your team did a great job. The first thing I heard when I went back to school in the fall was what a good job maintenance was done on the school grounds over the summer compared to in the past. So that was awesome. So it was noticed and appreciated, and we're hearing that snow removal is going to be just as good. So fingers crossed there. My biggest concern, and I just want to say this again at the risk of sounding like a broken record, is that we live in northern Alberta and we get -30s regularly. So when we have extended days of holidays and we lock up our school and turn off the lights and everyone goes home, and we have things in place to make sure the pipes don't freeze and we have floods, and yet the pipes freeze and we have floods. So just hoping that everything possible is being done. I know we don't have 100% guarantees because there's no such thing, but it's such a waste of money and time and resources. So just hoping that that concern is being addressed. So, but otherwise, thanks, you guys. You're doing a good job.
Thank you, Trish. I can confirm to you that we are working with our BMS contractor. So they're the ones that allow us the programming abilities to maintain things remotely. And we are working on the alarm system that they have. There are a number of fail-safe alarms that are on the buildings. It's how those alarms come in quite often that are an issue, and how they filter. So we're working quite diligently with them, trying to figure out how to separate the nuisance alarms from the big items and where they go. Typically, they've gone to an email, and we're trying to have those pushed to direct people instead of to a generic email for whoever's on call. So.
Cindy?
Thank you for your presentation, Jenny. As we did here last night at our school councils meetings, snow removal is a concern. So like Trish said, I hope we're on a good start. With our facilities, are we still subcontracting out a lot of work as we previously did, or are we quite self-sustainable now?
With the in-house work order system, we are becoming very self-sustainable. The only aspect that we really have to go out of house for is when it pertains to cooling issues. And that just gets to be a combination of the chemicals and the special requirements that are involved with cooling systems. It's difficult to get somebody certified to address those. With the snow removal, we have issued contracts and set delivery parameters for those contractors for this year, based on snowfall amount or accumulation if a single snowfall doesn't reach that amount, as well as timeliness. So we have included completion time clauses within those contracts. So we're hoping that this winter goes very smoothly on snow removal.
I might have a question, and it's around the roofs. You talked about we were at about 40% on good roofs, you called it, and we're about 84% now. What does good mean to me? Like, is it just not leaking, or
So when roof assessments are done, there's usually core samples taken to go with those assessments. So our roofs are all broken into areas that are more or less self-contained within the structure itself. So a combination of looking at the visible deterioration on the surface of the roof, as well as those core samples show whether the ceiling membranes are being penetrated based on deterioration of the foam and such below. We also do connect that with leakage problems that we've had to respond to in the buildings.
So on roofs again here. So out there amongst our 17 schools or 14 with roofs, do we see that some of them are not repairable in the future, that they really need a major overhaul? Or are most of our roofs repairable if we have a problem?
So most of the roofs that we that we currently have, we've done full replacements on. So they will be, when we take on a roofing project, the only exception to this would be at Morinville Public, where we had some damage due to the church fire that occurred. There we were able to do a lot of top membrane that we changed, and that the initial seal is replaced, and then the roof is back to a good condition. Most of them, though, we've stripped right down to the roof deck, so it's brand new roofs. They're not just a good condition; they are brand new roofs. We expect full protection from them for the next 20 to 25 years, and they are all backed by the ARCO warranties.
Great, thank you, Denny. Yes.
Tasha Otway McClay, Ward 6. I was just wondering, Denny, from the perspective of the board, are you supported by us? Do you feel supported enough by the board, or is there things that we could be doing that would make life easier?
No, I think that we are well supported. I very much appreciate that we have a board that, to us, seems to be very invested in the schools and in the students, and that allows us a lot of flexibility and freedom to actually address the issues that come up.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for your presentation. Enjoyed that, and that's good to hear from you and see where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much for the opportunity.
Reports from senior executive 6.1, 2021-2022 school council annual reports. You see we have a whole bunch. Jonathan?
Thank you, Chair. Jonathan Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. This report is provided each year for your information, Chair and trustees. It is a report that we ask for our chairs to complete in May, June, when the year is fresh, and we remind to complete coming back in September. It's a way to capture some of the discussions and to provide trustees with some insight into the conversations that may have happened at councils in other schools that you wouldn't have been a part of, and it's provided for information. I had intended last night, if I may say so, Chair, to go over this again, and I will seek opportunity to connect with the current chair and vice chair of each council to ask for ways that we can support them in completing it, so that it's not an onerous task, but it's still a good task to inform all the trustees. Admin's prepared to take any questions.
Thank you. Stacy?
Stacy Puger, Ward 5. Is the reporting from school councils, is it part of the Education Act? Is that a requirement that we receive reports annually from them? I'm seeing it.
Jonathan or Shauna, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you. Yes, it's a requirement that we receive information from the council.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. 6.2 Christmas luncheon 2022. Shauna.
So each year, the Board of Trustees, Shauna Warren, Superintendent. So each year, the Board of Trustees does host a Christmas luncheon for central office staff. And so due to COVID last year, if you remember, it was in kind of portable boxes. People came and received that. But this year it has been booked. And so we have booked for December 16th from 12 to 1:30.
December 16th. Thank you. Any questions on that? 12 to 1:30. We'll get that sent out to everybody. Okay, 6.3 overdue transportation fees. Liliana.
Liliana LeVacant, Associate Superintendent Corporate Services. So the collection of the overdue fees for transportation services is under the responsibility of our transportation services. We've been working very hard to close the communication loop with all the overdue accounts. As of a week ago, when this memo was prepared, we had 401 overdue transportation accounts, totaling a little bit over 127,000. We are being able to address between 10 and 20 overdue accounts per day. So we're doing really good progress. We have been able to get few fee waivers from the families that have difficulties paying and making fee arrangements, and some of the families just lost track of the fees. So I think we're heading in the right direction. On November 15th, however, we will have to move to the next level, which means we're gonna start suspending services. There is a process involved in that. In the morning, we'll pick up all the students, regardless if they paid or not. And in the afternoon, we'll work with the schools and the families to get the kids back home, but not through the busing services. So that's going to take, starting to take effect on November 15th.
Thank you, Stacy.
Stacy Buga, Ward 5. I know we kind of had rolled around this at committee of the whole to see what we're looking at. Were we able to, I don't know if it got sent out. I didn't see the notice that I believe we asked to be CC'd or like get a copy of the letters that are going out, just so that the board understands the language that we're giving to parents. Are we able to see that before the 15th?
Liliana?
Yes, I can forward the communication that went out to the families. We're also giving communication to all the schools to help them understand the situation. That information is going to contain all the overdue accounts and a little bit of a, cheat sheets, blurb, what's required to be conversed with the families. So we hope that it's going to have minimal impact on our schools, but we'll have some stragglers.
Cindy?
Cindy Briggs, Ward 2, Bonacourt the Gal. This is a real hard subject for me. I have a hard time holding children at the school at the end of the day because their parents haven't paid their school fees. It's kind of it's an unfair process for the students that their parents haven't paid the fees. So I'd like another solution that the children aren't being held at the school at the end of the day.
Shauna?
Shauna Warren, Superintendent, and thank you, Trustee Briggs. So the process after last year, so we did have our admin council last week. And so that was also shared by our principals, the concern about that, because last year the number, it doesn't matter if it's one, it's still too high. And so this year, transportation is very dedicated to improving the communication process, that the phone calls are going out hard and fast and consistent, and that the language is truly that we just need to connect the families to central office. It's a phone call, and that's what it's about. It's communication. So we are working very closely with our schools. Amy's working very closely with our principals. The principals asked for a very consistent update from her to know which families so that they can help connect. And so our goal is to have 0. And so the understanding is, of course, is that if by chance a family has not and a child does walk to the end of the driveway or is outside, they would never be left, that we do bring them to our school. But it is absolutely our goal that it is 0. And as it gets closer to the date, we will be following up with schools to ensure, try to ensure the best we can that does not happen.
Thank you.
Thanks. Just a quick question, just so the first day they're standing out there for the bus and they get picked up and then they come to the school and they're not going home on a bus, and the division is phoning the parents and having a communication. How long does that go on for? Like the next morning they're standing there, you still pick them up, and so this, yeah, Liliana.
Thank you, Chair Dwyer. Yes, we continue the process until it gets resolved. Usually gets resolved within a couple of days.
Okay, thank you. No more questions? Thank you. funding. Liliana.
Liliana LeVacant, Associate Superintendent Corporate Services. The student enrollment was completed on September 29th. That was our third enrollment count. In order to ensure we have a good anticipation of our student enrollments and resources required to support our schools, we run two sets of enrollments count prior to that, one on September 2nd and one on September 12th. And we are happy to report that enrollment is up compared to the frozen count. We're recording currently, if our information is correct that we have from the government, a 2.28% increase. And if that number is accurate, and I'm saying that loosely because we base our calculation based on what's available on the Alberta Education website for our frozen counts. So with that number, we anticipate a supplemental enrollment growth grant of 172,500. So our superintendent has already addressed a number of staffing pressures. So those funds will go back in the superintendent discretionary account to continue to support needs as they escalate. As a little bit of a background, the current enrollment count is 5,156,000. Overall, compared to September 2021, has increased by 118 students or 2.34%. When compared to the pre-pandemic numbers, September 2019, the division had 5257 students. The greatest variance being in pre-K. So as you know, the division had made a decision to reduce the number of programs offered through pre-K 3 years ago. So now the numbers in pre-K is much lower. So when we actually exclude the pre-K numbers and just look at K to 12 enrollments, our numbers currently are much higher at 4,954 compared to 4,769 in 2019, which is a good news story. When compared to the budgeted enrollment, so when we prepared our budgets, we used anticipated enrollments. We're almost bang on in terms of numbers, just slightly higher by 6 students. So we did a good job in terms of anticipating enrollments. Another good news is that the largest enrollment growth at the school level when compared to the budgeted amounts is Redwater School at 19.3% growth, followed by Bonaccord Community School at 10.2% and Gibbon School at 6.2%. And again, compared to the frozen count, we're up by 115 students or 2.28%.
Thank you. Any questions, Stacy?
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. Just out of curiosity, for Redwater, I mean, that's a huge increase. That's fantastic that we're about 50 more students than predicted. Have they switched from other divisions? Because I mean, it wouldn't be all of the youngest grade coming in, I wouldn't think. But how were we so far off? Where did these kids come from, and why were we? I mean, it's a fantastic story. I'm just curious about how that came about, or maybe Janine has insight into that too.
Liliana.
Some of the growth is increase overall. Like if you look at our overall numbers, we do have an increase of students compared to last year. Some of it is shifting within the school. I don't have the detailed breakdown of what that number is made of, but I can bring it forward for next time or send information over email.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just curious to see where where the influx was, if it was a certain grade or if it was a certain age group that joined us, just because picking apart our deficiencies is important, but picking apart our successes can make it repeatable. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? 6.5, stakeholder engagement update on the Military Family Resource Center. Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. Jonathan Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. The memo here is for your information and to follow up with our meeting that we had with the Military Family Resource Center in June. At the time, we shared how we're all committed to supporting our military families, the children in our schools. Of course, we have many in Guthrie, but we have many across Sturgeon. And from that time, one of the unique opportunities that presented ourselves is a partnership that MFRC and Highmark, Heroes in Mind Advocacy and Research Consortium from the University of Alberta, reached out to us and asked if we would be on the ground floor in designing and implementing a wellness and resiliency program for military families. They've asked to understand what we're currently doing in our schools. They've asked for insight in how we may be reaching to families in Sturgeon County, and then to work together to design a program that would work here first, and then they want to take it nationally. They've already met, the leadership from the University of Alberta has already come in and met with the staff at Guthrie to talk directly, what are the stresses we're seeing, what are the conversations that we're having with kids or families. And we as a senior team have been over at MFRC a few times this year and connected now with, our counseling leadership group to take this further, to get into the actual writing and designing of how this is going to look. So that's pretty exciting. Separate from that, I believe it was yesterday, all of our counselors met with the health and wellness team from the Military Family Resource Center to get a walkthrough, so that not just the great connection at Guthrie, but that all of our counselors in our schools would hear these are the supports that we have in place. And then they went to the center and actually walked through, like if families would like some supports, these are the things that we do and can do. And so that's another encouragement. I would also share, talking with Helen Lawrence, leader in Shine, that we continue to support directly families, military families, but that have complicated needs. She's directly connected in that, has connections with MFRC to try to encourage, this is what we can do. This is because you're a military family, additional supports that you have. And they meet quarterly. By they, I mean, like all of the support groups in Sturgeon, including MFRC and FCSS and other groups that support families, they meet quarterly to talk about what we're doing. And Helen through Shine is hosting the next quarterly meeting, which MFRC will be at on November 2nd. So we're very connected with the community that way. Admin is prepared to answer questions about the report.
No question, but I think that's fantastic. That sounds like a great opportunity, and it can, I see, can expand whatever we figure out there, could expand to different groups too. And great, good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
6.6, value scoping sessions. Liliana.
Thank you, Chair Dwyer. On March 23rd, 2022, the board approved the 23-24 update of the 3-year capital plan. And part of that, we have identified the top 5 priorities for the school division, with the first one being Gibbon School. Second one is Ecole Morinville Public School. Third is a modernization of Sturgeon Heights School, a replacement for Redwater School for the following year, and Landing Trail School for modernization. So within that scope, we approached the government and asked them to work with us to be successful towards this process. And we have been notified that it's likely we will receive funding from the government to proceed with this value scoping exercise. We anticipate $50,000 support for this exercise. We put the offer to market to get somebody to help us facilitate the conversations. So at the end of November, beginning of December, there will be a 2-day session, and we will engage with all our stakeholders affecting these areas. That includes municipalities, the Sturgeon County Board of Trustees, of course, school principals, school councils, and representatives from Alberta Education. So at the end of this exercise, we will be in a better position to understand the needs for our division. Administration is prepared to answer any questions.
Casey.
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. On the facilities report, they had listed a solution for Landing Trail School, but not, and I assume that modernization solution is interchangeable more or less, but that Sturgeon Heights School wasn't on the facilities project. What are we looking at in the value scoping, and how do those priorities go?
Liliana.
Very good question. So in the process, preliminary discussions we had internally, we're looking at the overall assessment of the area. So because Landing Trail and Gibbon School are in close proximity, we carefully used the wording that was recommended by the government, which is solution, which means we're not going to address our solution just on the school itself, but the area in general. So that why is listed with in close proximity to Gibbon School, because it's going to be a solution for the area. That's the main reason for it.
Rich.
Trish Murray Elliott, Ward 4. So it looks like we're having mostly municipal and political people. Will there, other than say school council reps, will there be community members invited to this, businesses, that sort of thing?
Liliana.
We have, indeed, we have the municipalities and the county and principal and school councils members. So when we had this conversation with Start Architecture, which is our facilitator for the session, they recommended that we keep the conversation at this level. Well, the school council hopefully will have the opportunity to connect with the community. But in order to have effective communication at this session, they recommended we go forward with this solution. I hope, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunity that community at large can get involved in the conversations.
Thank you, Liliana. I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's an interesting way to go about this, and I think it's when you get input from all the individuals of the area, sometimes it's the process brings out a lot of things you're not thinking about, and it allows for the community as a whole to have input to what is the best solution. It's amazing sometimes when a solution looks like it's right in front of you, and then you actually get all the stakeholders involved, and it's not. So I'm looking forward to this process. I think it's a good way to go, and it'll be very interesting what the outcome is on this. So thank you for arranging that. Trish.
And just a quick confirmation, in your letter to the government, the estimate for these services is 50,000, and we are expecting that to be paid by the government, but they haven't confirmed yet. Is that correct?
Liliana.
The last we've heard from the government, from capital planning in Alberta Education, they recommended us to obtain the 50,000. It's still sitting with the minister, but because it's recommended by the department, we have high hopes.
Thank you. Thank you, Liliana. 6.7, communications report, September, October 2022. Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. Jonathan Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Provided for your information, trustees, is a small capture of some of the communication or work from communications in the end of September and the beginning of October. You can see that we did talk with our communities, put on social media, our focus and commitment to truth and acts of reconciliation during Truth and Reconciliation Week. We've also highlighted some ways that we've engaged with our community and our thankfulness to the community for coming in and, for example, cooking borscht with our students, which is fantastic. I have to get out there yet, but I haven't. And then highlighting as we come back together, a great thing to celebrate is our students are on teams and competing, and we've shared successes and engagements that way. We're all very thankful for our teacher staff, and we celebrated them. We saw the video, and your thankfulness from the board came out as well. It was a way to say thank you to all of our teachers. Draw your attention to that Sturgeon Public and the Media. It's a great way to see that beyond our own social media, we are being picked up by media outlets. And here are a few of the articles that were carried, and that's worth celebrating. And then some information for yourselves about weeks or highlights that are intended to be celebrated, talked about, better understood at each of our school sites are listed for you. Admin is prepared to take any questions on the report.
Daisy.
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. Just out of curiosity for upcoming events and our awareness type of things, is there's anything that comes up on our radar that we, think is important? Is that something that we can share with communications, or if we can share with board chair, or just sometimes there's those recognition days come out of left field sometimes and are surprised, but just a thought.
Jonathan.
Yeah, thank you. I would welcome all communication from yourself if there's a day that's coming up. We'd love to know about. We may know about it, but it's good to know about it again. So please do let communications know. I'd ask that you'd CC myself.
Trish.
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4, and just further to Stacy's question too, and a reminder for everyone, one of the media outlets was coming into Sturgeon Heights to do a little blurb on our STEAM program, and the division sent out our communications director to work with the teacher a little bit beforehand, and apparently the interview went really, really well, so that should be coming out soon. And so if anyone has something coming up, I heard great things about our communications director being super helpful, and keep that in mind if you need to.
A couple of things we can start to think about is light up the night parade in Morinville. If we want to have a float in there, that'd be a lot of kids along that path. I was quite surprised last year how many people attended, and an opportunity for show some proud to our kids in our schools that they're being represented in the parade there. So there might be an opportunity there we can think about. And I think another opportunity that's come up too is the Cree language course that's being promoted at Camilla. There's a lot of talk about that. So I think there might be an opportunity to get some excitement around that. So here's a couple of things. Okay. Anything else? 6.8 monthly financial report. Sorry, Liliana.
Liliana LeVacant, Associate Superintendent, Corporate Services. So the preliminary September 2022 financial results are there for your information. And I'm calling it preliminary because September is always lacks a significant number of posted items due to year end. So we have a small team in finance that focuses mainly on the year-end completion activities. So we also had some turnover in accounts payable. So we're lagging some activity being posted in September. So as it sits currently, we have at 846,000 surplus, and we continue to post year-end adjustments. And hopefully those will be completed before the end of the month. When compared to the budget, the actual variances by program for pre-K to 12 revenue is higher than budgeted at 8.51% as opposed to 8.3, which is the normal 1/12 of the year, due to many of the school fees being collected upfront at the beginning of the year. Expenses are lower than budgeted at 7.8% as opposed to 8.33, mainly due to delay in processing expenses, like I mentioned, and some of the hires that took out throughout September. In operations and maintenance, revenue is lower than anticipated at 4.28% as opposed to 8.33, mainly due to amortization of deferred capital contribution. It's an accounting paper transaction. The amortization schedule is not completed till the audited financial year end is signed off and the auditors approved that our schedule. And the same schedule affects our expenses, which are similarly lower than anticipated at 3.71. Again, this will be updated once the financial statements get approved by the auditor. Transportation services revenue is higher than anticipated, mainly due to the fact that we collect the fees at the beginning of the year. Expenses are a bit lower than budgeted by 167,000, mainly due to the timing of processing contractors' invoices. In system administration, revenue is slightly lower than budgeted by 10,000. And that's because the interest revenue that we get on our deposit accounts was not posted in September. So we actually anticipate that the revenue is going to be higher than budgeted due to interest rates continuing to climb. And that provides us an increased interest revenue. Expenses are lower than budgeted, mainly due to a little bit of amortization and the timing of the contracts and all the other expenses that are usually posted to system administration. External services revenues and expenses are lower due to delays in processing. And administration is welcoming any questions. The report is attached for your information.
Stacy?
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. Certificated salaries in external services. What does that encompass?
Liliana?
That is our secondments that we have with the government.
Seeing no other questions. Thank you, Liliana. 6.9 monthly IT report. Jonathan?
Thank you, Chair. Jonathan Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Provided for the trustees' information is a monthly IT report. I would say the focus of IT continues to be a lot of what we did in September, which was to get devices working again, get updates applied, get user logins corrected. That takes quite a bit at startup. We now have every school on what's called SuperNet 2.0. It's an upgraded internet backbone with Bell. It used to be with Axia. SuperNet 1.0 was Axia. You may recall midway last year when we first got on, it created an issue with our phones, but that was resolved, and now all of our schools are on SuperNet 2.0. There's also been over the past couple of years what was called or is called the Network Optimization Project, and what that is the changing of all of these access points that you see in rooms that give Wi-Fi access. All schools now are done except for Nemeo and Oak Ridge Park, and Nemeo has been escalated to. I'm told that they're going to complete it during fall break because it was scheduled to be over Christmas break or a bit later in this year, but they're having challenges in Nemeo with their connectivity, and so that's been escalated, and I'm told that'll be done at the end of fall break, and then Oak Ridge Park will then be queued up right after that. The report itself, the details, just a reminder, the Chromebooks indicated are division-owned Chromebooks. They don't identify student-owned or bring your own device Chromebooks. And you can see our leaderboard with printing has changed slightly, so we continue to bring that information forward to our principals as well, so they can action that. Admin's prepared to take questions on this report.
Dasher.
Sorry, Tasha Oatwomen, Clay Ward 6. What's going on at Nemeo? It's been a big joke for the last 2 months about it's a BYOD school and there's no internet. So I was just wondering if you could expand a little.
So as I understand, yes, they were scheduled for the replacement of all of these AP devices. And then there are controller units that sit sort of in a central location that tell all these things what to do and how to respond to our connections. They're older and the connection or the controller unit has started to fail. The problem is the new APs are subcontracted, installed, new lines pulled. It's a full setup. And if we could do it in summer, we could do it on a break, you can bring down for the week it takes to change over. Instead, we are limping along what we have until we can do that at fall break and bring up all of the new devices. And you can't have both because they talk, they have a cloud of hellos. And if we tried to bring up the new while the old were in place, actually nothing would, like they would conflict. So we're doing the best we can to keep a failing system up until we can turn that off and turn the new system on. I have been working with Darwin there directly and with IT to patch as we can, but understand that that is a challenge, not meaning to be a joke. We understand that is a hardship for education within those classrooms. I'm told that we are going to do the turn off and turn on of the devices and that we have contracted the pull. So there are devices that aren't hooked up. And I've heard teachers say, well, this device is sitting there. Why is it not hooked up? No, I respect that, but it can't be hooked up and turned on until the others are turned off. So that's the challenge.
Janine.
Is that the same challenge that Ochre Park is having? Because they have basically no internet in some classrooms and some days it works and some days it doesn't.
Jonathan.
Thank you, Trustee Peckman. I'm not as versed in what is failing there, except that it is the same age and vintage of technology that has clearly been failing now at Nemeo. And so without further insight, I would suggest, yes, that's the issue, but I can get back to you on the specifics.
Thank you. Irene.
Irene Gibbons, Ward 7. I just wanted to clarify on page 3 with the Windows Workstation evergreening. Is that what we see? Those numbers are what's going to be expiring and therefore we need to purchase? Okay.
Sorry, just for the benefit online, couldn't see a head nod. I agreed. That is what those numbers are.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, John. 6.10 Administrative Procedure 245 Health and Safety. Lisa.
Just the AP 245 Health and Safety was revised. Instead of having a full school evacuation every 2 years, which would be unsafe and very costly to division, we have changed that to read that all school staff will practice an evacuation to the tertiary and secondary locations at minimum twice a year, or every second school year.
Thank you. Any questions on that, Stacy?
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. Not so much a question on the changes that are being made. That makes perfect sense. Just with the new facility for the Learning Center in Gibbons, because we don't own the building, we're leasing space. I understand that the town of Gibbons has been very accommodating and our maintenance staff has been excellent on making sure that things are following procedure that we do in our schools. But at this point, I know there's no fire alarm. There's no, some of these protocols that are included in this procedure are not currently installed at that facility. And I just want to make sure that, I assume that is on the list to be done, but just to confirm.
Johanna.
Yes, and thanks, trustee Buga. We were discussing, the positive with that facility is because it's contained, and if you were to yell, everybody hears you. So I've been working very closely with principal, with Christy Philgate, to talk about, okay, so you PA system, is it necessary? Probably not. But fire alarm, what does it look like? So we're just unpacking that, and to make sure that they feel that in an emergency, they know exactly what to do. That follows the same as our schools. And so thank you, because we just did have our hour zero refresher with all of our principals and vice principals and the senior team. And so that was discussed, and we walked through some things. So I'm working closely with her. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. 6.11 Administrative Procedure 729 Evaluation of the Superintendent. Lisa.
And the AP for the superintendent was aligned to go with the superintendent's role and responsibility. And a process was put in place so that you can see the process for the superintendent's evaluation.
So just on that, so everybody knows, we will have our consultant that's helping us with this come to the board and present on the whole process as well. And we'll learn from that. Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. 6.12 2022-2023 Superintendent Discretionary Fund.
Shauna Warren, Superintendent. So as reported monthly, this is a summary for the month as I am at with the budget for superintendent discretionary dollars. And so you will recall that the budgeted amount for 22-23 for the superintendent discretionary fund is $800,000. And that dollar amount is set aside to support schools that as Liliana alluded to earlier, when we look at our enrollments during the year, that there's never the magic that what we have as the end of September 30th or what we project is what arrives is. So we need to make sure that there is some type of cushion. So in August, at the public board meeting, I did present to you that from May to July, the spending that had been spent to date at that time was an additional 3.25 teacher FTE and 1.4 QP FTE, which totaled just around $400,000. And then last month, that was the August 31st to September 21st. And that spending that was reported to you included an additional 1.45 teacher FTE. And that was the additional dollars spent of 150,000. And for this month, so for September 22nd to October 21st, we had Redwater School, as you heard, their enrollment was up. And so working very closely with the principal of the school, additional teacher FTE was requested in September, and that was to support part-time strategies. So that is targeted programming for students who do struggle with regulation and need some time and space and the skills to be successful in the classroom, and also additional K&E support in high school. And so this summary is provided there for you. I am prepared to respond to questions.
Thank you. Any questions, Stacy?
Stacy Bugo, Ward 5. Can you clarify for me? I'm a bit confused. If we've budgeted 800,000 for the 22-23 school year, why do we have the 400,000 or so from May to July coming off of, or why is it showing up on this budget item? Thanks.
Shauna.
Shauna Warren, Superintendent, because as you remember that the budget is approved by the board in the spring for the upcoming year. And so when we do our RPT, which is our staffing for all of the schools, then we base that on the budget that you pass. And so the numbers, the reason why it comes off my discretionary for this year is because it's for the staffing for this year, and it's after the budget has been passed. And so when you see the May to July, those were the additional pressures that we saw that were coming that were above what we had already allocated to schools based on the budget that was passed by the board for the 22-23 school year in the spring of 22.
So that'll come the next spring when we pass the next budget. That's when the new discretionary funding budget will reset. So if anything comes up in May to June, that's not coming out of this because 165 seems quite low to me based on what we've done so far.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Shauna Warren, Superintendent. That is correct. And so, but as you heard Liliana say, that we did meet the minimum threshold of the 2% for increased enrollment. So once we receive that funding, that will top that up. And so I'm not too worried about it right now. I think our schools, again, we have students move in during the year, so that's why we need some sort of cushion. But our schools right now, I feel that we are getting to a place that we are good to go. But when those, and knock on wood, that we do get the increased enrollment, the 2%, that funding, then that will be put back into the discretionary.
Thank you. Tasha.
Tasha Otway-McClay, Ward 6. I just wanted to say this is my new favorite report. I'm so happy to see that it's actually being used and used appropriately and going back into the schools that need it. Budgeting process is never equal, but it should be equitable. And I feel that using the discretionary fund like this is just perfect. It's wonderful. And I love seeing where it's going. So I just wanted to say thanks for a nice report.
Thank you. And I'd like to comment on that too. It's just, when we put a cushion and we're budgeting, we only can budget on what we know of that day. And it's, and things do change at all times. And to be able to have a discretionary spending budget under our superintendent to use in the right ways that come in front of us that we haven't budgeted for in the past for that year is the right thing to do. And it's proven itself this year that we're getting the money to our kids when needed. And thank you for working that. Any other questions? Thank you. Reports from trustees, chair's report. I'll just go through what I've been to. We went to a board retreat on October 3rd and 4th, which I found very valuable. There was one discipline hearing, a building maintenance committee meeting, committee of the whole meeting. We went to 4 of us attended the PSBAA fall general meeting on October 12th, 13th, 14th. There was some professional development around governance that we were involved in, and overall some value came out of it, and I was glad I attended. School council meeting at Camille School, some read to the kindergarten class, various administration meetings, again, Rotary meetings, and the COSC, Council School Council meeting. I just want to talk about that a little bit. That was last night that we attended that. And I'd really like to thank publicly all the attendees from the school councils, from all the schools. There's a lot to talk about, and it's a good avenue and venue for getting word out of what's happening in the schools. And I think we'll look at a spring edition. And in the spring edition, I really want to get the round table going a little bit more stronger and some lengthy time there for some good discussion. Transportation came up quite a bit there a little bit last night, and some struggle for amount of volunteers that are sometimes needed. And that's been out there for a few years, but it's something that we need some more discussion on. So totally enjoyed last night. Thank you for those who attended and enjoyed that. And the public board meeting today. And that's my week. I really enjoyed reading to the kindergarten class. My granddaughter was in there, and it was fun. She didn't know I could read, but anyway, no, but had fun. So that was really good. We'll go through our trustee. Any questions to myself, Chair? Okay, we'll start over at Cindy.
Cindy Briggs, Ward 2. October 3rd and 4th, the board retreat, a discipline hearing, building and maintenance committee, committee of the whole meeting, Lillian Schick's school presentation, Chubby Cree, that was wonderful, and 3 of us attended on the board. With Lillian Schick Room Parent Association, we have filled our chair and our vice chair positions, so congratulations to them. Council of School Councils last night, and it was wonderful, and I appreciate all the parents that are taking the time to be part of their children's education and support our school division. And today we're at the public board meeting.
Thank you. Stacy?
I submitted my report. It's got a lot of the same kinds of things on there. I did attend the reconciliation workshop hosted by Town of Morinville and Sturgeon County at the end of September, which was unfortunately poorly attended, but a really great event. I hope that next year they get a little bit more uptake on that. I also did the reconciliation walk with Alexander First Nation, which I think was really important, and I was honored to be invited to be out there with them. Beyond the things that I had written down, there were some really cool things that I did. I attended a library conference in my other world of librarians. School libraries are included in these things, and I thought it was valid to bring this information to you guys. One of the keynotes was leadership coming out of the pandemic and the future of work, which was a really interesting session. I can share it in our PD folder, but it was an interesting discussion on what work looks like going forward and how we, in the library world, how we support staff members in coming out of the pandemic and what work can look like. But it was also really good to look at with an educational lens on how we're teaching our kids what to expect coming out of high school and what work of the future is actually looking like. So if anyone wants to chat about that, I thought it was really interesting. Librarians and public libraries, as well as school libraries, are working really hard on connecting. This has always been a focus of libraries, but I think it's really critical right now while we are struggling with literacy, we're struggling with numeracy, we have librarians in our schools, we have public libraries in all of our rural communities, especially that, I mean, there's nothing but potential on how these two organizations can work together. And with technology now, there's so many apps and summer reading and all of these reading challenges that are all digital now that could easily be connected to our schools just to promote that ongoing literacy and making sure that kids have access to things that aren't curriculum based, things that they want to learn, what they want to read. So I'm pretty passionate about libraries, obviously. If anyone wants to chat about it, happy to go on. I also attended a presentation called Reimagining Education, and it was presented by Dr. Carl James. He's with the Faculty of Education at York University, and this was through Spark Labs, like the Tell Us World of Science kind of thing in Calgary. A lot of what we're doing in our division is what he was talking about, and coming out of COVID, looking at those greater inequities between socioeconomics and really understanding the communities that kids are coming from and what they're bringing to school every morning is very different. And one thing that kind of stuck out to me was they commented that parental engagement, which we all struggle with making sure parents are engaged, parental engagement can be supported by community engagement. So if we're seen as present and supportive in the community, parents are more likely to trust us and participate in our communities. So I thought that's interesting, especially with advocacy and what we talked about at parent council or school council last night is that, yeah, getting out there in the communities, making sure that we're always talking. That was interesting. Attended the SPVA and Learning Centers school council, and they were excited about their first Flex Friday. So that's when they bring in their students all together to work together. And I was able to attend their last one on October 21st, where they did a blanket exercise with Taryn Donald. It was incredible to see these kids that have known each other virtually are like best friends. There's they're intimate and they are together and they're sharing and they're absolutely vulnerable in these situations without having known each other in real life. They haven't grown up together. It was incredible to see. There was some discussion about the Redwater Chamber. One of the parents is part of the chamber there, and I know that Sturgeon School Division is officially a member of Morinville Chamber, which is the regional for the side of Sturgeon County. SPVA is a member of the St. Albert Chamber. So curious whether either it's the Redwater schools become members of the Redwater Chamber or whether the division becomes Redwater part of the chamber because it is regional to that side of the county. Might be worthwhile, again, just as we're trying to get our names out there and be front and center. That would be a great place to get information as well as share information. EMPS Parent School Council, their curriculum kits that they've created for their 1 to 4s now have full UDL support for all their grade levels. So they've done a really great job, it sounds like. I assume that that's being shared within all the learning coaches, but it sounds like a really good success story there. They opened their childcare just at the beginning of October, which it sounds like from last night is positive and maybe alleviates some of the turmoil caused by our lack of new busing. And Four Winds, they're just struggling with space. Mostly they are juggling kids in every space of their room. They're doing a fantastic job, but of course it's a challenge. And I attended the digital literacy presentation by the ICE unit. So that's Internet Child Exploitation Unit, partly by RCMP and Edmonton Police, I believe. And I would love to, I know I pre-read all the reports and I'd love to chat with Trustee Gibbons and compare how the parent session was with Saffron versus the parent session with ICE. I think they're probably both valuable. I'm not sure how similar or how different they are, but it's great to see that this is happening. They did a presentation for the grade 5, 6, 7, 8, 9s, and then parents in the evening. So.
Thank you. Trish?
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4. I've also submitted my report, so I won't go over everything. The things that are only on my report are, and the highlight of my month was reading to the Sturgeon Heights kids. I read to 3 kindergarten classes, including the outdoor kindergarten, and 3 grade 2 classes. And I'm very fortunate that they have invited me back to read to some of the other classes. It's hard to fit the whole school in 1 week. So hopefully we'll get more done. PSBA, I'll talk about that during that part of the agenda. And the parent or the school council. So Sturgeon Composite High School, very busy school, lots going on, lots of clubs, amazing sports. They're looking at different fundraising activities. The good news is enrollments are also up there and a very vibrant place. I forgot my notes, so am I missing anything from Sturgeon Heights or Sturgeon Comp? Anyway, it's a great bustling school. Sturgeon Heights School Council, we had some very interesting discussions. One of the parents gave a bit of a presentation on her issues and concerns with transportation. Some of this I have already shared with you all, receiving some emails from this parent. So it was great that the rest of the council heard what some of the issues are, and it gave us some things to look at. As we all know, transportation is a huge issue, but you know, specifically, we're looking at kids that are on the bus almost an hour and a half each way when they live 10 minutes away from school. And the other part, and a big part of that is because we have so much construction near St. Albert. If anyone has ever gone down Ray Gibbon Drive or Meadowview Drive or St. Albert Trail, you can kind of see that. So we're hoping once some of that clears up, it will alleviate a little bit, but it's still a huge issue we have to look at. As well as there was a bit of a communication gap when one of the buses was late and kids were offline there for a bit and parents were concerned about that. So good things to know and we're addressing. Another really good question that came up at that school council meeting was from a parent who was concerned about our new time for the public board meeting. But I think when we explained our reasoning behind that and the fact that the agenda is out well in advance the previous week, and any questions, concerns, or communication will be looked at, addressed, or brought to the meeting, or the ability of us to have special meetings if they want to do so, hopefully alleviated those concerns. So the school is also very busy, lots of clubs and fun things going on. So overall, I think really positive starts to the school years in our schools.
Thank you, Trish. Just a couple things on Camilla too. Again, I want to mention that they're going to be having a Cree language class. They've got, I believe, about 12 or 13 kids registered in it now. And actually there's parents asking if they could come back to school for that. So it's something we'll have to discuss, but so some good things and an outdoor classroom. There's principals met with some community stakeholders and there's a real interest in making this happen, and the project looks exciting actually. So see what happens there. And on Camilla, we don't have any update on the civil work around the new school yet. There's some promises and it looks like it's going to come through here in some fashion, but until then we won't report on it. But I also wanted to mention on Trish talked about our meetings moving to 9 o'clock and did a good job on that. But one thing I want to mention too is all our public meetings are recorded, and you can go on and watch the meeting in its whole. And Trish talked about it, but I really want to make sure publicly that people understand that if there is a cause, we're not going to avoid it. We can call a special meeting when it's when the time's sufficient for people to attend, and we're not going to avoid that. And we will make sure that every opportunity is available for anybody that has a concern. We'll work through that. So thank you.
Irene Gibbons, Ward 1. My report is submitted. I will ask for the amendment because I noticed I spelt Chubby Cree as Cubby Cree, so I will rectify that. That I was very pleased that I got invited to Lillian Schick. Thank you, Cindy. It was a fantastic performance to witness in person. So if you ever get a chance, go to it. The highlight from the Public School Board Association Alberta conference that I went to was the PD, like Joe had mentioned prior, on governance. It reframed it a little bit in some senses, but the same kind of thing that we've been going through. So just reinforce that we are on the path. I did the Gibbons School, and they extended the invitation landing trail as well, but it was held at Gibbons School, presentation for parents from Saffron. I had my eyes opened, and all I said to them was, I don't know that I could raise my child at this time with all of the possible ways they can be exploited. Yeah, so it was even though there were only 10 people, it was a really good presentation. Yeah, that's my highlights.
Thank you. Tasha.
Apologies that my report is not included in the package. I'm trying so hard to get better at this, but the majority of what has already been presented applies to me as well. But a couple of things that are unique is I started the Indigenous Canada course from the U of A. I am telling you all of this so I can be held accountable every meeting. It's a free offering, so if anybody's interested in it, please let me know and I can share the information with you. Nemeo Parent Council was quite good. They're currently experiencing a little bit of challenge with their parent council arm versus the fundraising arm. And so they're addressing some issues that they've got there. They asked if they could put me as the central office contact for their advocacy work around the sidewalk between Nemeo and the high school. And I said, I don't think so. You can use me as the trustee contact, but I said, if you need a central office contact, it better be Liliana. Just because I don't know what all that will entail. So I figured you'd be better to direct traffic. The other thing I wanted to bring up, and I've heard it over and over and over again from both parent council and COSC and here in the room. Do you think it would be possible to kind of share amongst our schools events like the Saffron or ICE? I know a couple of the issues are that some parents may not know that their school is doing it. They really want to engage, but now they've lost their opportunity because they missed it at Nemeo. Could they possibly attend Lillian Schick's version of or presentation or Sturgeon Heights presentation? And currently we don't really share that amongst our schools, even though these are all our kids, these are all our parents. I'm just wondering if maybe there would be a way to do that. I know Nemeo is now talking about having their own Saffron presentation. So many people missed it though.
Stacey?
I know that the ICE presentation at Four Winds, it was planned about 2 weeks, or they sent it out about 2 weeks in advance. So we did have parents from Camilla and Nemeo join. But I don't know. So it can go out and it has gone out, but I'm not sure how effectively it went out. So.
And maybe that is the issue. It's not that we're not sharing, we're just not sharing effectively. So I don't know if there's a solution to that, but I know it's a constant thing.
Great, Cindy.
Possibly we can talk to our communications manager and she can put it on Facebook and all social media, and that way people will see it that way, and it's a blanket.
Good idea.
Did you have some?
Shauna Warren, Superintendent, thank you. And so there is sharing. So obviously it's just not getting out well enough. And so I think we just have to look a little, how we go a little deeper to make sure that it's communicated further and wider.
I just want to comment on this. I know myself, I've taken this on as a personal issue to get out wherever I can. I've talked about it at Rotary and I've talked about it at other events that I've been at when I have an opportunity. And I'm not sure. I think we can always communicate something better, but I truly believe it's been out there pretty solidly. I think right now, my view of it is that our parents of today really maybe aren't, especially rurally, aren't quite aware of how serious this problem is. And so I think we just keep communicating. We keep having these events when we can. And I'm also wondering if there's a way to have a virtual one. Maybe there's a reason parents aren't coming to a location. Maybe there's something out there we can have a virtual one. But we really need to talk about this a lot in the next year and get it out there. And the more we communicate verbally and whatever way we can, and so parents are starting to understand that it is an important issue in today's world, no matter where you live, that they need to learn and be involved. So, but I do believe that we're doing a decent job of getting it out there. It's just, I just don't know if people have grasped it yet. So let's keep working on it. Some good ideas, and thank you. Janine.
I won't take up much time because I don't have much of a voice. I did everything else that everybody else did, and my extras were, of course, my parent councils and TIBA. And I have Zone 2-3 coming up on Friday. That might be virtual for me instead of in person. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. A health break. Yes, let's take a health break. Is 5 minutes healthy? Okay, a 5-minute health break. You know, even the parents that went to Fort Winds from Camilla talked about it at Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. We just took a 5-minute health break. Hopefully everybody feels healthy. And we'll get started again on 7.3 Advocacy Committee.
Stacey Bugo, Ward 5. So Advocacy Committee has met twice since our last public board meeting on September 28th and October 17th. So I won't read the whole report summary as it is submitted for your information. Just some of the details we have gone through and adjusted our Advocacy Committee work plan, reviewed the year-end report. We're going to be looking at, we've added the Legal Public School name and logo to our work plan, but we're going to be revisiting that probably in a few months once everything kind of settles down and we figure out exactly how we're working in Legal and how we want to be moving forward, as the space is quite small and we want to make sure that we've got a long-term plan and not rush things. We are also very excited to be looking at the Student Advisory Committee, the possible schedule that we're going to be coming up with for the next year, which we will be voting on, I believe, later in our agenda. You'll see the recommendations there. Our next committee meeting is going to be November 23rd, 2022. Some of the things that we did put on our work plan that I know came up last night in our COSC meeting as well is connecting with MLAs and municipal partners with the election on the horizon. We're working on that. Meeting with neighboring school divisions was something that we wanted to start last year, but we're going to kind of revisit that later this year and see how things are going. And front and center in our communities, we brought that up last night, and we will continue to make sure that our schools and our school division are present in our communities. But those are the goals for the committee this year, and I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you, Stacy. No questions. 7.4 Building and Maintenance Committee.
Cindy Briggs, Ward 2. The Building and Maintenance Committee makes recommendations to the board regarding the board's real property, as well as the division's capital plan and modular requests. We have met on September 28th and October 12th. On October 12th, we discussed contractor agreements for the 22-23 snow removal, which seems to be a topic at all our school councils. The HEPA filter project status update. The field house project at Sturgeon Composite High School, which is now on hold because of the price difference. So we are talking and working out the details with that. Camilla School fence could be completed by October 31st, which would be Monday. And the discussed JUPA, which is the Joint Use and Planning Agreement at Sturgeon County and the joint facilities to be reviewed. At the last meeting, we also discussed the work plan, discussed the division-owned vehicles, and today we had a presentation from Denny Henderson. So next meeting, we do not have a date as of yet, do we? And that would be it. I'm prepared to answer any questions.
Any questions? If not, thank you. Finance and Human Resources Committee.
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4. The Finance and Human Resources Committee makes recommendations to the board regarding the budget priorities and strategies to be undertaken by the trustees, as well as superintendent evaluation and compensation, as you can all see in the information report. We did have a meeting on September 28th where we elected the chair, we reviewed the work plan, and we had our initial presentation from MNP on the annual audit plan. Discussed legal and fraud requirements and brought forward the work plans. So we have not had any additional meetings since then, although we are planned for November 18th, and that one is going to be the pre-audit report also from MNP. Are there any questions?
If not, thank you. Policy Committee.
That's me. We have not met since our last public board meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any questions to Policy Committee? Thank you. Transportation Committee, we did have a meeting scheduled with a joint meeting with our contractors, which it got canceled. They couldn't make it that day, so we're trying to get that meeting going. And the other thing is that the building and maintenance has not met, or transportation has not met, and we'll be meeting on November 9th at, I believe, 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, something like that. I'll make sure you got it out to you. 10, is it 10? It's before noon. Okay. Thank you. And we'll be meeting then, but a real heavy concentration on our transportation budget and how we move forward to look at that in the near future and how we manage that. Okay. Question. There has been a lot of transportation issues that are being dealt with, so we have a lot of work as a transportation committee this year. Any questions on that? Thank you. Reports from special committees and task groups, Alberta School Board Association representative.
That's me again. Our meeting is this Friday, and I believe ASBA has sent out the agenda package for the fall general meeting with all of the resolutions. So if everybody wants to take a look at that, and we can have a discussion before that meeting about what Sturgeon's stance is on those resolutions, that would be great.
Yes. So I encourage everybody to read them, and we'll look for an opportunity to talk before that. Okay. Stacy.
Can we add it to our cow agenda?
Yes, we can. Perfect. So we'll add that to our cow agenda. Okay. Trish.
Trish Marie Elliott Ward. Also, I'm happy to see that the parliamentary procedure session has finally popped up. But also in the ASBA email from Friday, October 21st, there were a couple of pages that had some really good basic questions and answers that I think people would benefit from having that also. So I really enjoyed seeing that as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. Public School Board Association of Alberta. Trish.
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4. We had our PSBAA Fall Conference. Thanks to all of those who came. We had a great time. It consisted of the Lois E. Hole dinner and lecture. The guest speaker was Her Honor Lieutenant Governor Salma Lakhani, and she's awesome to listen to. She's from Uganda and has a great story. It was very enjoyable. The next day we had our PD session, which some of the trustees have spoken about. Again, we covered many things that we are already talking about, so I find that really positive that we are certainly going in the right direction. I guess, let's see. The main thing is our job is to make good decisions, not quick decisions. If we aren't quite sure that we're making the right decision, that means we haven't spent enough time on it. So the slideshow and my notes will be popping up at some point in the Google Drive, so stay tuned for that. We also had Adriana Lagrange, Minister Adriana Lagrange, give us a few minutes of her time. And a lot of what she talks about usually is how much money they're giving us for this and that. And I can kind of see it because when she comes to these things, we're always asking her for more money. So she went over things that we are already aware of with extra money that they're budgeting for us. The leaders of PSBAA had a meeting with the Auditor General regarding our report their report that we did on the charter schools. And they felt that that was very well received and that they are actually listening to the concerns. So hoping that that goes somewhere. And the business meeting was on the Friday. We passed the budget and elected a couple of open positions, and otherwise it was a very good and successful meeting. Our next PSBC meeting is November 16th to 18th. And if anyone else was present and wants to add anything, please feel free. Or if anyone has any questions.
I do have a comment there. In passing the budget was a fairly, I would say, a fairly normal budget, but at the end, they were, it was a negative budget of about $48,000 at the end. And what they're looking at there is membership, and I believe that there's going to be some new member groups join, which would take care of that negative end of the budget. So, and they didn't feel that was even a question, that they must have some new member groups that are going to join. So I think that was an interesting one that everybody should know about. So, okay. Irene.
I might need the other three of you to help me fill in the blanks. But is it a partnership with the Saskatchewan
Oh,
board? Can someone?
Tasha probably talked about that.
So there was an MOU signed between Alberta Public School Boards Association and Saskatchewan's equivalent partner. Alberta and Saskatchewan share a lot of commonalities in terms of their education system. We have a lot of the same struggles, and for those of you who maybe weren't on the board or weren't privy to the information, when the public school boards of Saskatchewan decided to sue the province of Saskatchewan on some charter rights, PSBAA acted as intervener and a supporter of their motion, ultimately defeated by the Supreme Court. But regardless, we still share a lot of similarities and a lot of common goals and common problems. So that was signed. We are now officially partners, supporters of each other.
Thank you. Trish?
One more quick good news story from PSBAA is our division won a prize of 3 books for our school libraries. So one of them, The Best Medicine, has some Cree information in it. So we thought we would donate that one to the library for Camilla. And the other 2, which we've decided are kind of higher elementary, lower junior high. We have heard last night at our Council of School Councils that the Gibbons Library is looking to update its books. So the thought here was that we would start by donating these to Gibbons Library. And Shauna is going to be kind enough to put something in stating that they are coming from the board. There's also a sticker in that they are from PSBAA. So that was great. Love winning books.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. New business 9.1 draft 2024-2025 school calendar. Lisa.
Motion is required based on the draft calendar which has been created, and we were looking to have it approved in principle so that administration can then circulate it for feedback. Feedback will then be presented to the board at the March 2023 board meeting for final review and approval.
Thank you. Any questions? Stacy.
Stacey Bugle, Ward 5. Just to confirm the way that we are going forward on National Truth and Reconciliation Day, we're having it as a non-operational day. I believe it's a board directed non-operational day. Does that affect us financially? Does it affect our QP agreements because they're non? Sorry.
Lisa,
No, it does not. We would just not have it as a non-operational day in their calendar every year. So they still work the same amount of days during the calendar year because we still have to have the same instructional days throughout the calendar.
Stacy?
Sorry, follow up. Should the province declare it a provincial holiday, would that affect our calendar at all? Or this is, we'll just move smoothly into that, should that happen?
Lisa?
Yes, it would just move smoothly. So instead of it being board declared, it would just change over to a general holiday. And hence why it's really appropriate for us to put it in. Where it might affect us is when it falls on a weekend, because then we would have to give another day in lieu of the general holiday. So if there is a year that it does fall on a weekend, then we would have to make some adjustments to the calendar at that point.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'm sorry, board, we do
Yeah.
need a motion on that. Okay.
Got her. Okay, can I have a motion? Tasha?
I move that the Board of Trustees approve in principle the draft 2024-2025 school calendar as presented at the October 26, 2022 public board meeting, and further direct administration to circulate the draft 2024-2025 school calendar for feedback as part of board policy.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? Janine?
When we're circulating the draft calendar, is there speaking notes as to we have to start in August because of November break and that kind of thing? Because I know those are going to be questions as to why are we starting in August? And I feel like the answer is because of November break, but can we just have like some rationale behind our approved in principle calendar to come out with it?
Go ahead, Lisa.
Yes, we can definitely put something together that you can bring to your meetings with you.
Thank you. Any other questions on the motion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, everybody. 9.2 Finance and Human Resources Committee name change. Go ahead.
Shauna Warren, Superintendent. Again, this does require board motion approval and motion for that. And then, so we are asking that the Board of Trustees approve a name change for the current name we call our Finance and Human Resources Committee, that we would like to add in the word audit. So that we'd like the board to approve that, please. So that committee would now be called Audit, Finance and Human Resources Committee. So just so you are aware, the most current update of the Education Act, it does require us to have an audit committee. Our Finance and Human Resources Committee already meets that legislated requirement, but we think that it would be prudent for the board to ensure that that word audit is in the title so that it does line very clearly with the Education Act. So that is the request that we add that. You can see what the requirements are for the membership of the committee, which we already meet that requirement. And so number 2, you see that the audit committee shall comprise of at least 5 individuals and that 2 who are not trustees. So we already have that because you do have 3 senior execs that sit in on that committee.
Any questions? Someone want a motion? Go ahead, Irene.
I would like to make the motion that the Board of Trustees approve a name change for the Finance and Human Resources Committee to now be referred to as the Audit, Finance and Human Resources Committee.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? Stacy?
Can we add the Oxford comma, or is that not what we do in? I like an Oxford comma, the one after finance, but it really doesn't matter. It's semantics, but commas save lives.
If it's going to make you happy, we can put it in there. Okay? No, I don't need you to motion that. Okay. Any other questions on the motion? All those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Okay, Student Advisory Committee Establishment and Schedule. Who's going to talk to that? Jonathan or Stacy or?
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. As mentioned earlier, Student Advisory Committee is part of our Advocacy Committee work plan, and we have decided that we will push forward with some dates. In the background information here, you can see kind of how we came to that. And at this point, because of conflicts of dates and timing, our first meeting can most successfully be held on December 12th, 2022 as an in-person meeting. And then we would plan a second meeting in February 2023 online, followed by a third meeting in April or May of 2023, again in person. The recommended motion is that the Board of Trustees approve establishing the Student Advisory Committee for the 22-23 school year and the meeting schedule as presented at this public board meeting.
Okay. Any questions on that motion? All those in favor? Okay, schedule for that is passed. Yes, Trish.
We decided a venue for the December 12th meeting.
Jonathan?
Jonathan, Deputy Superintendent, we've had conversation with the comp. We had early approval for our earlier date, and then understanding that wasn't the right date for all of our students to be able to attend. I'm awaiting what I anticipate is positive confirmation of that. They are aware of the ask, and we'll let you know.
Thank you. 9.4 Advocacy Committee Work Plan. Stacy?
Mike still on, Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. As mentioned earlier, the Advocacy Committee has developed the work plan at our board retreat and gone over it at our first meeting. As you can see, it's Legal Public School, name, logo, colors, meeting with the Student Advisory Committee 3 times per year, connecting with MLAs and municipal partners, meeting with party candidates, cost council of school councils, more than 1 meeting per year, one which we've already held, meet with neighboring school divisions, and front and center in communities, parades, and engagement events. So I would move that the Board of Trustees approve the Advocacy Committee work plan for 22-2023 as presented at the October 26, 2022 board meeting.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Thank you. 9.5 Building and Maintenance Committee Work Plan.
At our board retreat, we developed a work plan for the building and maintenance. The joint use agreement for Mornville, Bonaccord, Gibbons, Redwater, and Sturgeon County. Grass cutting and snow clearing to ensure that we keep up on our snow clearing throughout the winter and keeping our yards beautiful in the spring and the summer. The 3 and 10-year capital plans. Aging buildings have a building plan and advocate through ASBA and PSBAA. Ensure that there is a building maintenance schedule for equal opportunity for all our schools. The lagoon. joint use with RQB Ag Society, and ensuring that our playgrounds are safe. One moment. Computer just froze. I recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the Building and Maintenance Committee work plan for 2023.
Great,
Sorry,
thank you.
I just kind of stopped. I died.
That's okay. Any questions on the motion? Tasha?
I'm just wondering, you have joint use with with the River Kavar Ag Society. Is there a reason the Mayo is not included in the Ag Societies?
I can
Yep.
talk about that. One of the things about River Kavar, when the original joint use was, I mean, it's a lot of changes since then. They're a standalone identity to themselves now. And there was some conditions around even how the arena, which is owned by the River Kavar Ag Society, and that's finalized, is even what they could do inside the building and all this type of thing. So there's some stuff in there that don't pertain till today. And so it really needs to be changed and reflect today's world. I think the Mayo, I'm right, it still kind of reflects today's world. Change. So that's why it was put as a priority and I asked for it to be. Thank you. Any other questions on the motion? Sorry, Irene?
I'm just wondering, do we need to keep the lagoon on the work plan?
That's a great
I just trying to-
That's a great question. I think until everything is sealed up and filed, I think it stays on the work plan.
Any other questions? All those in favor of the motion as presented? Unanimous, thank you. 9.6 Audit, Finance and Human Resources Committee.
Trish Marie Elliott, Board 4. So at the retreat, we developed a committee work plan for the 2022-2023 year, which included the audit committee, superintendent evaluation, financial transparency, challenge with recruiting and retaining staff, board evaluation, budget, and annual financial statements. Does anyone have any questions about that? And if not, I would like to move that the Board of Trustees approve the Finance and Human Resources Committee work plan for 2022-2023 as presented at this board meeting.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Unanimous. 9.7 Policy Committee Work Plan. Indeed.
I'm not going to read the work plan out loud because we all have it in front of us. I will make the motion, though, that the Board of Trustees approve the Policy Committee work plan for 2022-2023 as presented at the October 26, 2022 Public Board meeting. Sorry, I'm so quiet.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? Thank you. Okay, Transportation Committee Work Plan 9.8. I'll just quickly read our work plan. Clarity into all dimensions of transportation, revenue, expense, clear bus example, routes, detail regarding 2.4 kilometer implications. That goal is really, activities are really around us learning a lot more about transportation and how it works. Insurance, building relationship with contractors and clarification of expectations. Communications plan for contractors and dispute resolution plan. Engagement with municipalities and stakeholders, discuss walking boundaries and safety for children. review school boundaries for transportation, review choice ridership, and the fuel contingency program. Those will be, that's a huge goal for this year. Be a lot of work within this, so, but I think we can get a good start to all of them. Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the transportation committee's work plan for 2022, 2023 as presented. Any questions? Trish?
So ride times is rearing its ugly head. And I wonder, is that included in the clarity into all dimensions, or would we add that as another bullet point, a specific bullet point in that first box?
We can add that, Trish, for clarity, but I would say there's a little bit of that in most of this.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions on motion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Any unfinished business? Notice of motion? Any other information to be presented today? Any comments in question period? ATA or QP? Anybody on? Don't think so, eh? Any community members? And I don't see any media. Okay, any requests for information?
I don't know if it belongs in this space, but does the change of our board meeting time affect the representation of our ATA and QP members? Is there some, can we do a request for?
Shauna?
I have spoken to both representatives, and I think the board can appreciate why Mr. Boulder is not on this morning, but I have spoken to both of them. And so ATA representative, she did say that she will be blocking time, and we would give her notification when it would be getting close for her to come on if she couldn't be on for the whole thing. And same thing with QP. And if they wanted something brought forward, they also can provide a written report.
Thank you. And now we're just going to, and it's, I apologize to everybody. We should have done our land acknowledgement at the beginning of our meeting, and we forgot that. We'll get it on our agenda, so it's clear on the agenda at the beginning of our meeting. But the most important part to that is us acknowledging. So I'm going to ask Cindy to go through her acknowledgement at this time. Thank you.
In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, we would like to acknowledge and respect that we are living on and working on Treaty 6 territory, a traditional homeland of ancestors of Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Sturgeon Public School Division is committed to respecting and honoring the traditional lands and working with our communities towards reconciliation.
Thank you. I apologize again for missing that at the beginning. I need a motion to adjourn our public school and go in camera. Cindy? Motion? Everybody in favor? Thank you. Now I need a motion to go in camera. Actually, I did that wrong. We shouldn't have ended the other meeting until we come out of in camera. I apologize for that. So motion to list. I'm going to rescind that motion. All in favor of rescinding that motion? Thank you. And I'd like to motion to go in camera. Cindy. All those in favor? Thank you. I'll give a 5-minute health break again here before we go in camera.